Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my first of two 2024 bullet journal flip throughs. I've been using this beautiful Starlit Meadows journal by Kuma Stationery from January to June of this year, and I'm excited to flip through and show you guys all the spreads. As always, feel free to screenshot to your heart's content so you can save some of these ideas for your own journals. And if you're new here, do subscribe down below because I post a new bujo video every single Saturday. Let's get right into it. So like I said, this journal is from Kuma Stationery. It's the Starlit Meadows journal and it has this beautiful red color with gold designs and gilded edges, although of course mine have been definitely worn in. Speaking of worn in, there are also like spots of dirt on the cover, but that is completely user error, trust me. It just happened to get a little dirty over the past 6 months. All right, let's crack it open and get started. So of course, we started out my journal with my name page. I just wrote Sophie on the front. So for my opening setup, I wanted to make some art that matched the actual cover of the journal, that like deep reddish purpley color. So I drew this goddess character on sticker paper with alcohol markers, which by the way becomes a really big theme in this bullet journal, but we'll get there, don't worry. So yeah, I'm doing the celestial theme for the very first page, and this is going to continue for the opening bullet journal setup. So here we have my grid spacing sheet and my year at a glance. In case you're wondering, yes, this does kill my hand to literally handwrite every single day of the entire year on this calendar spread. I can make an entire video explaining like what this is and how to make it, but basically I just divide my page into halves, thirds, and quarters, both vertically and horizontally. That way, whenever I'm making spreads, I know how many dots across to count if I want to divide a page in half or third or etc. down the line. To be honest, I also quite often use rulers in my bullet journal to measure these things, but I do think a spread like this can be helpful, especially if you're a beginner. This next page is my future log, and as you can see, I have the first 6 months here, and then I'm actually going to open this because it is a Dutch door. And if I flip it over here, these are the last 6 months. This is a really cool setup, I think. And by the way, all of these setups are available as full YouTube videos on my channel for every single month that you're going to see here. So I will link the playlist down below if you want to go check them out individually. This page is probably going to be pretty blurred. If you guys are seeing it, I do have to blur some private things, of course, since it is my personal bullet journal, but I have my goals page over here. This is my review of last year and then my main goals for 2024. And don't worry, this is not the extent of my goal planning. I have a full setup of goals on my Notion page, but I do put a couple ones here, and then a letter to my future self, which I also keep in my bullet journal. So here I have my yearly trackers page. On the left, I have a book tracker where I list all of the books that I've read. I also track my books on Goodreads and Storygraph, and also I have a second channel that I started in May, which is a completely booktube channel. It's called Sophie. I will link it down below, but if you want any or all of my opinions on the books that I'm reading and some good recommendations, definitely check out that channel. Just a little self promo there, but I have to update this definitely. The last one that I wrote down was from May 17th and it's currently July 2nd, but I do have all of the books that I've read so far this year. And then on the right, I have a period tracker, and I also track this in an app, but I feel like it's nice to see visually as well in my bullet journal. Moving on to our first monthly setup. So this is January, and this was a really cool setup. I actually over time have really liked this setup more than I did when I first did it. So basically, this artwork here is done on sticker paper, but it's actually watercolor. And I have only done watercolor like once or twice in my bullet journal before, but because it is a very wet paint, I wanted to make sure that I did it on a separate piece of paper and then pasted it in, hence the sticker paper. It was a very challenging piece for me because I don't paint very often, but I really pushed myself out of my comfort zone. And I actually love how this looks, especially on camera. I think the effect of like light coming in underwater was really effective, even though the fish and person may not be very defined, but I really do like this piece. Moving into the next spread, this is my goals page for January, and then habit trackers, and then a pretty simple whale image down here. Again, this is done with watercolor. And then here I have my expenses tracker and academic planners. So since I am in college for the months of my semesters, I do put academic planners in here. I talk about them a lot, but usually I just separate it by week of the semester. So I only had 3 weeks of classes in January, so each week was here. And then each row is a different class. So I write all of my to-dos and assignments and exams, and everything that I have to do for that class basically goes in that box, so I can keep track of everything in one concise place. So this is the first weekly spread of January. As you can see, it's Monday the 1st. That's really satisfying that the first day of the year started on a Monday, which is when I usually start my weekly spreads. It is a Dutch door, and I have multiple videos explaining Dutch doors on my channel. I will link one that I did in the middle of June if you want to see it down below, because Dutch doors can be a little confusing, I think, when you're looking at them, but in reality, they're really quite simple. This was a more minimal spread. I just have a little whale painting here and then my days of the week. This I think was the last weekly spread and it was definitely much more in depth. I did this artwork here. I remember drawing it at night at my dorm and I think that's the end of January. So let's move right into, oh, my reading journal setup. I forgot that I did these. Okay, so I have been doing reading journal setups at the beginning of this year. I'm pretty sure I did 4 of them, but then in May I started my book channel like I mentioned, so I don't have these anymore. But these were super fun because I basically just cataloged all the books that I read each month. So in January I read 5 books, a little over 1,000 pages. That's pretty nice. And I also am tracking my reading challenge because I set a goal for myself to read 50 books every single year, and apparently I was doing well in the month of January. Here are the books that I read. So I basically read books 1 through 3 of the Mind series by St. Abby, and then these 2 really good books this month. I also have Plan With Me videos for these spreads as well, by the way. So this was a page that I did when I did a calligraphy tutorial video on my channel. And then moving into February. So it might be hard to tell on camera, but there is a lot of neon yellow on this spread. And this is my ever-going struggle with very saturated brown alcohol markers and trying to figure out how to make the yellow not transfer on the other side of pages. This happened last year in November. It's happening here in February. I've used Mod Podge, I've used spray Mod Podge, I've tried different things. I'm still experimenting with it, but at the time in February, I didn't have any of these options available to me, so the yellow has smudged onto this side of the paper and it's really unfortunate. But that being said, I still think that this artwork is very, very pretty. It has a little vampire girl in a window with the roses, very dark romance, which is a fun theme for February. Now this spread looks really in-depth because it is actually a 3-part Dutch door. I'm gonna close it so you guys don't have to see my trackers, but I cut 2 pages of the journal into this smaller rectangle, and then the last spread I just put the artwork on as well. So it almost looks like everything is sitting on one desk and there's drapery of roses around. Unfortunately, I don't think it is too cohesive with this spread just because the colors here aren't as saturated, but that's what happens when you use water-based markers instead of alcohol-based markers sometimes. Coming into my first weekly spread, as you can see, this is much more saturated, again, because I used alcohol markers. So like I said, this was the year of experimenting with alcohol markers, but again, no Mod Podge meant that there is a little bit of yellow residue on the right here. Another weekly spread, another day of alcohol markers. What is new? Oh, and I did art tutorials, I think, for this on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram to show you guys how I did that gradient effect. One more window. It's a lot of repetition, I think. This month, I wasn't feeling too artsy, and so the repetition of basically the same image multiple times is just an easy way to keep things decorative, but also relatively easy for me in my bullet journal. And this is the last weekly spread. This one is incredibly easy. It's just a lot of roses, and these are just scribbles with leaf shapes. It may look complicated, but it's a lot easier than you guys think. Oh, never mind. There is one more weekly spread for February. I forgot. So this one's not my absolute favorite. It's nice, and I thought I had like something going here with like this repetitive pattern of like fans with roses, but it just ended up being kind of mid for me. All right, so now we're moving into my February reading journal setup. This one I used a pink theme here. I read 4 books this month, and this is when I found Abby Jimenez, who is now one of my favorite authors. I really just love her work. Before we get into the next couple months of this flip through video, let's talk about saving money, because as you guys know, I'm a college kid, so I'm on a college budget, but also I like to read books, I like to buy stationery. They will be my downfall, so it's not very easy for me to cut expenses. But that is why I am so intrigued by Mint Mobile, who this video is in partnership with. They offer premium wireless for just $15 a month. I can get high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. I can even bring my own phone, including my existing contacts and current phone number, so I'm actually sacrificing nothing by using Mint Mobile. So I've been using Mint Mobile recently, and I see no difference comparing it to other networks. I did an internet speed test just to show you, and my phone says that my internet speed is fast, so that's wonderful. And I'm also always watching YouTube or listening to podcasts, especially whenever I am editing at my desk or I'm doing a lot of work, and there's really no difference. My internet is always super fast and reliable. So you may be wondering how hard it is to switch your service, because big wireless makes it look super difficult, but it's actually very easy. Switching to Mint Mobile is super simplified because thanks to digital eSIM cards, you can sign up on your phone and activate it right from the comfort of your own house. You don't even have to go to a store somewhere. Although most modern day phones do have eSIM cards, if you don't have one, Mint Mobile will ship you one completely for free. Phones and technology can be really confusing for some people, but Mint Mobile makes things so easy. So if you want to save a little money, like me, use my link right here on the screen that is also linked in the description box below to get premium wireless for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. Thank you to Mint Mobile for partnering with me on this video and helping me save some money so I can go ahead and spend it on some more stationery. Like I said, my link is down below, and let's get back to the flip through video. Moving right into March, this was a super fun theme, and I think the only bullet journal theme this entire year so far that I've drawn directly into my spreads and not on sticker paper. So that really tells you how much I've been using sticker paper these past 6 months. Overall, I think this was a really cool artwork. It's very fun and colorful, which I really needed in the beginning of March as we were getting into spring. And also the effect of like pool water here that you'll probably see better on the next couple of pages was also a really fun element, even though it may not look like perfectly accurate and realistic. Here you have my tracker spread, and this is probably my favorite from the entire setup because I love how the title March Trackers is like on top of the pool water here. It's a little time consuming to color and everything, but it looks really good and clean when it's all done. So here's my academic planner for the month of March. Very similar, like I said, every class has a different column, every week has a different row, and then there was spring break in the middle of March. My first weekly spread, this frog is so funny. It looks so tiny and so skimpy, it's hilarious. This is a more minimal weekly spread. You can definitely tell based on the amount of decoration and or like color in my spreads which months or which weeks I had more creative energy than others. For example, this week I had more creative energy because there is much more detail and art going into this spread. All right, so that's it for March. Pretty quick setup because I think I skipped one weekly for spring break. Anyway, but this is my reading journal setup for March. I did an orange theme and a little simpler than the past couple of months. There are like little cats everywhere, super cute. I actually read 7 books in March, which is kind of crazy, so pat on the back for past me for doing that. These are the 7 books that I read, and if I had to pick my favorites, it would be The Sixth Death of the Saint, which is actually only 36 pages, crazy, and then I also read Daisy Hates. So we are moving in to April. This is one of my favorite, I think it's probably like my second favorite setup of the year so far, if not my favorite. Definitely in the top 2. One thing that I think is funny is that over time, every time I look at my drawing of Tinkerbell, she looks even more pink. Like, I don't know if it was this pink when I first drew her, but for some reason she always looks like very, very rosy instead of having more of an orangey tan color to her skin. But that being said, I drew Tinkerbell. I'll give you a second to guess. Ready? Drum roll, please. Alcohol markers on sticker paper. Is anyone surprised? And then I layered her on top of different pieces of stickers, washi tape, ephemera, stamps, printed photos, stuff like that. There's also a doily back here. This was a really good cover page, honestly. It took a long time, but I'm so proud of how this spread looks. So this month I decided to do a very scrapbooky theme, so I had limited drawing, although I did draw Tinkerbell, but most of the artwork was done from just printing images online or having stickers. I wouldn't say it's a minimal setup, but color-wise, it's definitely more muted with the light beiges and browns compared to previous themes that were very brightly colored. This is probably my favorite academic planner from the entire year. Something about this vertical title with each of the letters stamped and cut out individually was definitely time consuming, but super cool. And I also like how every row is like individually divided. This is my tracker spread for the month. Again, I did a header on top, kind of similar to March. I was inspired by my past self and being able to add a lot of color up here, then have the trackers at the bottom be relatively simple. Here's the first weekly spread. This Tinkerbell is so cute. I love her position here. This one I think is the most read Tinkerbell. Maybe the alcohol markers like had some weird reaction over time. I don't think it was originally this pink when I first drew her, but for some reason she is really pink. You know, some people have really rosy skin, not a problem with it. It's just that I don't remember me drawing her like that when I first drew this picture. This is a really nice spread. I don't have a Tinkerbell on this one, but I thought that the butterflies in this theme were still a nod to winged creatures. And then one last spread, again, no tink, but butterflies. And overall, I think I fit 9 days, almost 10 days in this spread. So really had a lot to do the last week of April. So here's the last reading bullet journal setup in this journal. As you can see, I did a very purpley theme, which I thought was super pretty and kind of matched with the April showers thing. I read 4 books this month, so not as many as the last month, but I actually finished a nonfiction book this month, which is not my usual, but I really did enjoy this book. It's a Holocaust book, really good. I also read Manacled this month, and if you have been watching my book channel or you know anything about me and what I've been reading this year, you would know that this is absolutely my favorite book that I've read in this entire year. It may possibly be my favorite standalone of all time, and that is crazy for me to be saying those words, but it actually is that good. I've been rereading parts of it this week just for funsies, although is anything in this book funsies? I don't think so. But I've been rereading it and reminding myself of just how freaking fantastic it is. Oh my goodness, I think I need an entire YouTube video dedicated to just how much I love that book. All right, anyway, so we're moving into May, and this was a punk rock star theme. An interesting one for me, not something that's in my usual quote-unquote aesthetic, but I wanted to try something new, and I also wanted to experiment with hot pink, so I think you can say that I have sufficiently experimented with it. This was a very similar spread layout to my April cover page in that it is a drawing with alcohol markers and then backed by a lot of stationery and scrapbooking and layering. Same thing here. I really like this one. I think the pose here is pretty good, and I like the way that I drew her knees. I always use photo references when I draw people. Definitely, I cannot draw things just from my head. So if you ever look at my art and say, wow, that's so amazing, just know, okay, I'm using so many references, but I do think I love how this turned out. And also I put black paper on the back here and then put sticker paper on top, so it looks like there's a border of black when actually it's just layered. But I like the effect here of using black paper. My tracker spread once again has a horizontal title with layering very similar to the last couple of months. Overall, you can tell that I really didn't use my trackers, and I also don't think it's updated because it's like definitely inaccurate. Moving into weekly spreads, this was a fun one. Once again, I'm really relying on printed images and washi tape and ephemera and stuff like that to do the decoration for me. I think the only thing I quote unquote drew in this spread were the stars and then the ombre lettering. I also am pretty sure I have a tutorial for that lettering on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram. I did not really love how this character came out. She is definitely not my favorite of the year so far, but this one is definitely a favorite. I love this character. She's super cute. I mean, okay, it's the same character every single spread technically, but I'm drawing her in different positions, so you guys get what I'm saying. But this one, I love her expression. She just looks super adorable. And this is a packing list that I did. I was going to visit my best friend in Nashville, but I ended up not even using the packing list. I just made it for a video. And my last weekly spread with a huge sticker. This is from Sticky. I got it in one of their packs. And yeah, by May, this is the end of the setup, and now we're moving into the last one, which is June. So this is my setup for June, and I love, love, love this setup. This has to be my favorite. It's either tied or above my April setup with Tinkerbell. The only thing that really makes this dock a point is because of the mess that I had with alcohol marker. Like I said, there's a lot of yellow, so there was some yellowing over here, and I tried to cover it with Mod Podge, but y'all saw the video. There were some issues definitely in this setup. So I think that the art itself is very beautiful, but the neon yellow does damper it a little bit. That being said, I think the setup had a lot of creativity with it. I liked these horizontal Dutch doors and the little tabs up here. So I put my habit trackers and goals on this page, and then my expenses tracker and accomplishments at 17 on this page because I actually turned 18 last month. It was my birthday month. Overall, I really liked this setup, but because it is summer and I'm out of school now, I really didn't use it very often. So you'll see that the trackers were really unfilled and my weekly spreads were quite simple. So I made a video for this, but because I had a very busy summer, like I said, I decided to do all of my weekly spreads in one big Dutch door just to save time and energy. So I have this artwork on the right, and then I have a to-do list on the left, and then each of these tabs is a different week with a slightly different design, but they are very, very simple. And really all I did every single week was draw in the two columns, and everything else stayed the same for the entire month. Now these boxes are pretty filled. Like I did have a lot of things to do this month, but my schedule itself was empty. It was just a lot of like little to-dos. That being said, this is the last spread in my bullet journal so far. So today is July 2nd. I started a new bullet journal yesterday morning. It was super fun feeling, but it is sad to say goodbye to this journal by Kuma Stationery. She has served me well for the past 6 months, and I'm really excited to add this one to my collection. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below your favorite spread or your favorite theme from the entire bullet journal. I'm so curious to hear what yours is. And as always, subscribe because like I said, I do post every single Saturday, except next week I'm actually going to be skipping an upload. Girlie, I need a vacation. Okay, I'm taking a little break next week. I'm going to visit my grandparents, and then I'll be back the week after with a super fun video. So subscribe, and I will see you in 2 weeks, not one, but it'll be really soon, I swear. Send you guys so much love. And if you want to see my new bullet journal video where I set up my journal for July to December, I'll have the video right here on the screen.